What happens when the world's most powerful military alliance is sidelined during a major war involving one of its leading members, and its unity begins to fracture in real time? As tensions rise between the United States and its European allies during the ongoing conflict with Iran, the role of NATO is being tested in ways not seen in recent years. This video examines how internal divisions, strategic disagreements, and shifting priorities are reshaping the alliance, and what that could mean for global security. If these tensions deepen, NATO's credibility as a unified defense bloc could weaken, potentially affecting deterrence strategies in Europe and beyond. If the alliance manages to stabilize internal disagreements, it may reinforce its adaptability in a changing geopolitical environment. If the United States reduces its commitment, the balance of power within NATO could shift significantly toward European leadership, altering long-standing security arrangements that have defined transatlantic relations for decades. NATO was founded in 1949 as a collective defense alliance, built around the principle that an attack on one member is considered an attack on all. Its primary focus has historically been the Euro-Atlantic region, particularly during the Cold War, when it served as a counterweight to the Soviet Union. Even after the Cold War ended, NATO expanded its membership and operational scope, conducting missions in Afghanistan and Libya. However, these out-of-area operations have remained controversial, especially after the withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021, which exposed coordination challenges within the alliance. The current situation differs in a critical way. The war involving Iran was initiated by the United States, a NATO member, but not under NATO authorization or collective defense provisions. This means the alliance is not formally involved, even though the actions of one of its most powerful members are influencing global stability. Mark Rutte has emphasized that the conflict lies outside NATO's territorial mandate, which includes Europe and North America, reinforcing the organization's position of non-involvement. At the center of the tension is Donald Trump, who has publicly expressed frustration with NATO allies for not supporting U.S. actions during the crisis. His criticism reflects a broader concern about burden sharing and alliance reliability. Trump has argued that allies did not respond when strategic interests, such as the security of the Strait of Hormuz, were at stake. This dissatisfaction is not new. During his first term, he repeatedly questioned NATO's value and even suggested the possibility of withdrawing the United States from the alliance. European leaders have responded cautiously. Figures such as Pedro Sanchez and Keir Starmer have taken positions that emphasize diplomacy and legal frameworks rather than direct military involvement. Spain, for example, restricted the use of its airspace and joint military bases for operations affiliated with the conflict, signaling a clear divergence from U.S. strategy. France has also expressed concerns about the legal basis of the war, noting that it was not consulted prior to its initiation. These disagreements highlight underlying power dynamics within NATO. The United States remains the dominant military force, accounting for a significant portion of the alliance's defense spending. However, European members have increasingly sought strategic autonomy, particularly in situations where their interests do not fully align with U.S. actions. Margus Tsakna has indicated that support for any operation would require formal requests and clear objectives, reflecting a more procedural and conditional approach to cooperation. Recent developments illustrate the scale of the divide. Following discussions between Trump and Rutte, public statements indicated a level of frustration on both sides. Trump suggested that NATO had not been present when needed and might not be reliable in future crises. Rutte, while acknowledging this dissatisfaction, framed the discussion as a candid exchange between partners, attempting to maintain diplomatic balance. Reports have also emerged that the United States is considering repositioning troops away from European countries that do not support its current strategy, though no official confirmation has been provided. The broader context includes multiple geopolitical theaters competing for U.S. attention. In addition to the Iran conflict, the United States is engaged in strategic competition in the Indo-Pacific and has ongoing commitments related to Ukraine. This dispersion of focus has raised questions about how resources and priorities are allocated within NATO, especially when member states have differing threat perceptions. Consider one scenario. If the United States follows through on reducing its role within NATO or reallocating forces, the alliance could face a structural transformation. European countries might accelerate efforts to build independent defense capabilities, potentially leading to a more decentralized security framework. This could reduce reliance on U.S. leadership, but also create coordination challenges, particularly in crisis situations where rapid response is required. Now consider an alternative scenario. If diplomatic efforts succeed in aligning U.S. and European positions, NATO could emerge with a clearer division of responsibilities. The United States might focus on global operations, while European members take greater responsibility for regional security. In this case, the alliance would remain intact, but evolve into a more flexible structure, adapting to a multipolar security environment. A third possibility lies between these extremes. NATO may continue to avoid direct involvement in conflicts outside its defined territory, while managing internal disagreements through diplomatic channels. This would preserve the alliance's core function, but limit its role in addressing emerging global crises that fall outside traditional boundaries. The implications extend beyond NATO itself. A weakened alliance could alter the strategic calculations of other global actors, affecting deterrence and stability in regions such as Eastern Europe and the Middle East. Conversely, a cohesive NATO could reinforce existing security architectures and maintain continuity in international relations. At a systemic level, this situation reflects a broader shift in how alliances operate. Traditional models based on clear geographic boundaries and unified threats are being challenged by complex, overlapping conflicts that do not fit neatly into existing frameworks. The question is whether NATO can adapt to these changes without losing its core identity. As events continue to unfold, key indicators to watch include U.S. troop deployments in Europe, policy statements from major European governments, and any formal requests for NATO involvement in securing strategic routes like the Strait of Hormuz. These factors will provide insight into whether current tensions are temporary or indicative of a deeper realignment. In the end, this is not just a disagreement over one conflict. It is a test of how an alliance built in the mid-20th century responds to 21st century challenges, where threats are less predictable and partnerships more conditional. The outcome will shape not only NATO's future, but also the broader balance between cooperation and fragmentation in global security.